Hi, love. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, by the way?
Kimisha?
Kamisha. Okay, thank you.
Kimisha. Yeah. Yeah,
So that's wrong. So I'm glad that I asked.
that's okay. No problem.
And thanks for letting me know. So how's your Saturday going? I almost said Sunday.
I know, honestly, I've lost track of days as
Mhm.
well. It's it's going so far so good. Yeah, I'm trying to get ready for I've been teaching some classes for Pratt for the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks total,
Oh, cool.
yeah, for little 7 to 9 year olds. So I'm working on this next week's lesson, which is like building monsters and creatures and all that stuff. So
That's,
trying to figure that out.
that's
But
like, so you
yeah.
said building, like drawing or like building? How does that work?
Oh, yeah. And honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out. Don't tell anybody. But it's both. We'll be doing like drawings and learn about kind of anatomy and how to draw anatomy. Um, obviously for 7 to 10 year olds. So, and then how we can create different kinds of creatures with that, and maybe turning ourselves into creatures by making, I don't know, like elephant hats or ears or crowns or things like that. So,
That's
yeah, that's what I'm working
awesome.
on.
I love
Thanks.
I love that you're like teaching little kids how to make creatures and monsters too, and also like how to express themselves as a creature too. That seems very important for young people, like really young people.
Yeah, this last week we did murals, and I was very quickly reminded how, I mean, I have an 8 year old, so I don't know why I didn't think this, but quickly reminded how quick kids are, and how different every kid is, and um, how creative and artistic they really are if you just give them the space to do so. And I mean, their imaginations are amazing. But yeah, if you don't put, boundaries and you just kind of let them do the thing, they really do teach you too. So yeah, it's been definitely a learning lesson for me for sure.
That's awesome. I was just listening
Yeah.
to a podcast on education the other day, and they were saying like kinders and first graders, when you put them in science, they're just
Hmm.
natural like scientists, like they're very curious, and then by the time they
Seriously.
get to 12th, they don't have any more questions. Um, because well, not because they've learned everything, but just because like the school system has kind of like sucked all the curiosity out.
Yeah.
But that's
Right.
but and so are you doing the virtual learning with them?
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah, 5 hours a day.
5 hours a day.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy.
Like camp. It's like art camp.
Yeah, it's basically art camp all weeks, and then each week is different. So, like this week was murals, and then next week, of course, is the creatures, and then I think the next one is mosaics, and then fabric art, and then observing the world around you. So we'll be doing more drawings and stuff. But yeah, to try to fill in. So we have a few breaks throughout the day for sure. But to try to fill in those 5 hours with fidgety 7 to 8 to 10 year olds, yeah, that's a challenge. It's like I feel like I'm like it's like game on. All right. And I'm like it's exhausting, but it's also really cool, and I'm really happy I get to put this under my belt, after a month of doing.
So have you always done education as well, or is this kind of your first foray into art teaching?
Yeah, no, I actually used to, not to this extent, like for 5 hours at a time, but I used to do classes at the Nature Consortium with Yegi Michael. That's actually how I got this particular job, because Eve used to work there, and so now she's like the director for the youth program for Pratt, or I don't know if she's director, but she's the manager there. And yeah, so I had that experience, and then I started a business called Artastic Events earlier this year, right before COVID. Actually, like I guess it was end of last year, and was starting to do these kind of empowerment art parties, right? And yeah, I've done a couple, like an event at Sam before, where you just kind of lead people into creating work, and so I have a few years under my belt for sure of teaching and kind of just facilitating people to do art, mostly youth to do art, but never at this capacity where it's a really long day and every day, and for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, like I said, it's something I'm really proud of to put under my belt. and I'll definitely use that in my practice and, further in the future.
That's amazing. The person who I interviewed earlier previously, Moses' son, was saying,
Moses, yeah.
yeah, he's so cool. Um,
Yeah.
for an artist, it's like a lifelong path of learning, and you don't ever stop learning.
Oh,
Like just uh, acquiring like new ways of doing stuff, or new ways of being, or discovering new parts of yourself that you didn't know about before.
yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah, that's so cool that you get this opportunity to like explore and learn something new and try something out.
Yeah.
Um, and I would love to hear more about these empowerment art parties. What does that mean to you? Like, what were you doing before COVID?
Yeah. So technically before COVID, I had a 9 to 5 job in the tech industry forever. I've always been like working 9 to 5 right. And then having my art as, I worked the 9 to 5 to feed my art,
Yes.
right? And yeah, and I literally quit that job the weekend that COVID that it shut down the state.
Wow.
Like I'd been planning it for months and saving some money and I had my son had some health issues and I was like finally that kind of just broke the straw was like or the straw that broke the camel's back was like all right, I just need to do it now.
Right.
To be there for my son and then for my own sanity. But the timing was really crazy. Um, but I was doing these events where I feel like a lot of times, you hear as an artist people say, I can only draw a stick figure. Oh, how do you do that? And you hear that over and over again. And it's like, actually, if you just practiced or you just did it more, I bet you'd find other ways that you can express yourself.
Yeah.
And so to hold these events where people who really didn't think they were creative could actually have somebody empowering them and encouraging them to just put some paint on some paper. And it doesn't have to look exactly the way you want it to look. I'll teach you some skills for sure. But also let's have fun with it. It's not a formal drawing class. It's not art school, right? That was my job to go to art school, but that's not your job. Your job is to decompress, get out of work, get your kids to a babysitter for a little bit,
Yes.
drink some wine,
Yes.
eat some chocolate, and let's turn on some music and dance and paint. And let's have some fun. And it was really great. And so I hosted actually one at ACES this year, and we discussed topics of like not just Black empowerment, but empowerment in general, but mostly Black empowerment and how we have this, or we don't necessarily tap into our wealth mindset
Mm,
the way other non-POC individuals can
yeah.
because they have the space to, right? They have the room to think bigger and brighter and wealthier, whereas when you're a person of color, you're thinking about everything that's happening in the world and how, you have microaggressions and trying to protect your kids and not looking like the angry Black woman or at work. I've worked in white spaces for a really long time, and there's lots of challenges there that you have to navigate and kind of put a smile on your face while you do it, and then come home and just like kind of bang your head on the table a little bit. And so then to have the space to really think about, okay, how do I up my game, my wealth game, my retirement game. Um, I think that a lot of people should be given the opportunity to do that. And so that was really fun to kind of focus on that while we paint. I think as you create stuff and you think about those kind of positive things that you want for your life, you can manifest that kind of stuff. So I kind of used it as a way to help people manifest. And again, it's not the Artastic events is not only for POC, but for ACEs, that's what we specifically focused on. Right.
I love that. I love too, like you're hitting on something so important. Like I feel like Black people especially have built the foundations of this land that we're on, and yet
Yeah.
are not like the benefits that you reap from building a foundation have been stolen.
Yeah, absolutely. And the mindset has been stolen. Like I think Moses was talking about like buying sneakers and I saw this Instagram post and it was like, we'll spend money on shoes and all this stuff, but when somebody asks, have you put money into an investment? We're like, I can't afford that. And it's like, gap there, right, for the community that like you should absolutely be thinking about putting money into investments and not being frightened to do so. Take a risk to up your financial gain. And I think again, institutional racism and all of that, everything is all interwoven. Like, when you're only thinking about the bling, which the bling is fun, but when you're only thinking about the bling, then you're not setting yourself up for future success. And I think it takes other voices to help uplift that, right? Wall Street shouldn't be all white. We built, like you said, we built the country. We build the pop culture and or influence it in a very heavy way. So why not then figure out other strategies to reap the benefits? And I think that our mental health, it gets affected with all this other stuff going on because we have to deal with it. So then we don't focus on it. And then, we don't have the land that we should, and we don't have the bank accounts, the fat bank accounts that we should, and we don't have the respect for money that we should, right? And
Relationship. Anyway, yes. Speaking of mindsets, um, so yes, the sneakers. I think also though one of the interesting things to me about the whole like sneaker thing and like the foundation having been ripped away from us is you want to like you want to look like it hasn't been.
mhm,
You know what
mhm.
I mean? You want to appear as though like, okay, yeah, that was stolen from me, but I'm
So true.
wasn't.
I'm fine now, right? I'm good now. I'm not bothered by it because I don't want to look like the angry black woman, right? I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So let me just put the smile on my face and I'm fine now.
yeah, ex-
Internally, you're like, you know? And Moses was talking about how he had to like work multiple jobs. It's like, yeah, and man, that's so heavy what you just said. That's so true. It's like you work so hard to just put on that face so that you can fit in and feel good. And I grew up here in Pacific Northwest, so um, and I didn't really get an opportunity to really be around my Black culture
mm,
and really learn and understand.
right,
And so navigating, corporate America constantly as being kind of the token and being like a token Black person to a lot of friends,
right,
was it's like you learn how to put that smiley face on for survival. It was a survival mechanism. It still is. Like I'm still trying to unpeel it
right,
because I like to put myself in other people's shoes. I try to understand where other people are coming from, even racist people. Like it's a racist society.
and that's
It's not always, yeah.
that's such a Seattle thing too. Like having to think about what others are, and even the race, like, oh,
True.
maybe he meant this, like,
I know. Oh
you can
gosh,
have
you're right.
microaggression.
Yeah.
Ah.
The passive aggressiveness, the all that, it's very, you're right. You're so right. It is. It's a whitewashing, right? I wanted to do a show called White Washington, but like meaning like whitewashing, done. And because I think that everybody's been brainwashed. I have really amazing friends and family that are white, and I love them, and they don't understand everything, and it does frustrate me. And we definitely have arguments sometimes, but I see that they they don't understand because our history books don't teach us about, Black people and
Right,
about how we've built so many things and influenced so many things. So when they don't have any reference to that, and then all of a sudden it's being thrown in their face, doesn't mean it's right. I'm just saying that I think I start to understand that a little bit, and so I try to be a little bit more like, all right, guys, like this is like let me just break it down a little bit,
right,
you know. But I'm still learning too, I don't think I'm right all the time at all.
right.
And it's a harsh learning process. I think having my son has definitely made me really take a step back even more and be like, wow, I don't want him to grow up not knowing these things and not being prideful in himself and um, not understanding where everybody's coming from in this movement, and fighting for the right things.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think for me, my my dad is like really, he's a black man and he's a dark skinned black man too. So it's like very interesting that I came out looking the way that I do. But
Uh-huh.
um he he only has white babies moms. All of his children are
Mm,
white skinned, you know. Um he wanted me to go to private schools, like all these things. He taught me a lot about my history and our history and like where I come from. And like I summered in the Midwest and in Atlanta, so I got a lot of that. But there's still been so much unlearning because there's
yeah.
like, oh, your skin color is so nice, or like, oh, you
Right.
have the good hair. Or
Mm,
as light skinned black women too, and like especially me, like with my racially ambiguous looking face, like people tokenizing you as the black friend.
mhm.
Like, do you have any other black friends besides me?
Right.
Because if not, like, what? I can't be your token black friend for many, many, many.
I'm still learning too,
That
right?
part.
Like, 'cause, right? Like, yeah, that's so right. It's so interesting because, yeah, my dad, I love him, rest in peace. He's amazing, and got really close before he passed. Um, and he was always my champion. But, same thing, always had white women, right? My mom, though, she was black and Korean. And I know, and sorry, Dad, I'm gonna spill the beans, but he had told her like, you're black enough for my mom, but you're white enough for me, or light skin enough for me. Yeah, and that hurt, right? And
That's hard.
but I'll give him this credit too. Like, towards the end of his life, he met this wonderful woman named Phyllis. I love her so much. And she was Creole, black woman, Creole. And I remember when he first told me about her, and we were on the phone, and he was like, yeah, and she's Creole. And I was like, is she black? And he was like, yeah, he just kind of like, yeah. And I was like, Dad, go look outside. And he's like, why? And I was like, there's pigs flying. Seriously, there's pigs flying right now. And he's like, shut up, just shut up. And like he knew, because he knew, like, and I remember him telling me that I wasn't black. Like, I remember him as a kid when he said that to me, I didn't understand it, and I really internalized it and was like, well, then what am I? And so for the longest time, I was really trying to search, like, okay, well, then I guess I'm just part Korean. And then it's like, that's not an identity, like, what is my identity, and why am I not black, and why can't I be like super proud and bold in my blackness? And um, like I said, I give him credit now. Like he's grown a lot before he passed and everything, and we've been able to have these kind of conversations. And but those kinds of internal things that a lot of Black people go through, and the thought processes, and colorism. I did a show called I Am, which me and my friend Rachel are probably going to do again soon. It was just all about that. It was about how sometimes we don't even understand where it's coming from, but we then spew some of this hate against one another.
Yeah,
Um, 50 Cent, if you saw her, these kinds of things, and you don't realize how much that affects the little girls and little boys
right.
that are beautiful and dark skin, and and so also recognizing your own privilege.
Yeah,
I definitely know I was less of a threat to people at work, and I was definitely told, like, you're one of the good ones. Oh, how come you don't act black? All these things. And it's kind of comes with the territory living here in the Northwest. And then I remember going to visit family over in the East Coast, which is all black. It's very blackity black, and I loved it. And I'd be like, wow, this is amazing. And I'd learned so many things. Like, how did I not know that? Wait a minute, what do you put in your hair? Oh my gosh,
that
you
part.
don't press your hair like that? Like, like, it's just all these things. So I'm really happy that this is a moment where we are all learning how to um, be authentic, and then accept authenticity from other people as well, not just Black people, but other um, minorities, other ethnicities, and all of that, because I do think that diversity is what builds the nation, is what builds up the arts, all of that, and these layers need to be unpeeled for sure.
Absolutely. So given the context of all of that, like you like learning about who you are, coming into more pride and confidence with your blackness, and also just about this art, like how did that feel then to be one of the artists that put together one of the letters in the Black Lives Matter mural on the street?
Yeah, Takia Ward, I got to give her so many props, and Joe Nix, like, I definitely lucked out. I'm very, very thankful and blessed to have been part of that. I think that we all knew that it was really important to say yes to it, and I think that's why, like, literally everybody said yes very quickly. It happened in like a day. Um, I did not realize how impactful it would be. I more so realized that it would be super impactful to have my son there because we had the bee, he was there painting with me and or just hanging out and watching us do it. And all I kept thinking was, wow, he's going to remember this. Like, and there's going to be video of us being there together. And he's going to be able to say, like, Mommy, painted this amazing phrase that really touches so many people around the world.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's cool.
internationally, and that was really important for me. And like I said, now seeing kind of the impact of it all, it's huge and incredible, and I'm super humble and honored to be part of it. But I think mostly I was just like, I can't wait to talk to him about this like in 10 years and just be like, remember that time where you put your handprint and your little footprint and it was really hot outside and all these people were like putting their phones in our faces, but we still just like painted away and we did it in like 8 hours, and that's really cool. And something that hopefully, if it's done right, will be preserved forever on the streets there. It was an incredible moment that I will hold in my heart forever. And all the people that we worked with, like I didn't know most of those people. I knew a handful of the people, a handful of the artists. Um, but since then, we've been working really hard together to like combat negative things, to stop people from just kind of co-opting and taking advantage of it. Um, Talking to other museums to try to change how Black voices are heard and or how they influence other Black art. That's really important. That's so cool. Like I could not have imagined that, but I'm loving being able to be part of those kind of conversations so that later on I could say, yeah, I actually did help partially. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. And so tell me more a little bit, like we're getting close to the end, but I want to hear a little bit more about like these conversations that you're having about like the ways that Black voices can be heard. Like that's so important to me. And you touched on something really kind of juicy there about how um people are trying to co-opt or they're trying to steal the images, which is so ironic given just the history of the way that Black bodies and Black work and Black labor have been exploited globally for the past like several hundred, if not thousands of years. So like what are these conversations about? What kind of stuff are you guys talking about like how we can honor Black work and Black labor?
Well, I think number one, it's kind of not a surprise, right? For hundreds of years, it's just been happening. So, I think it's first calling it out a little bit, over and over again in a manner that it's digestible to everybody. Like, hey, this is what you're doing.
Right.
So let me help you. But it's really getting representation. I think having representation means a lot, and I think we underestimate that. I like to put that kind of in my work. I just did a mural for the Seattle Art Museum, the facade of it, and in it there's these three figures, kind of like it's attributed to the wise monkeys, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, but they're Caucasian images, and they're being protected by this umbrella of black tears that are falling on them. And it's like you got to take accountability, right? You got to take some accountability, even if you don't know. Even if you don't know, like not knowing is not an excuse anymore. And for me, not to know my own history too, I have to do research as well. Like I'm not. You're not alone in all this, guys. Like everybody here. But like, I think representation is really important. Just ask. just do your research and then ask to have other voices join you and ask their opinion and start to realize how your life has really been affected by this culture, but then also how you affect the culture and how you affect the narrative in the world around you, you know? Um, so that's the best I can do, like with my own art is like Moses was saying, like continue to learn and explore. I have a show that hopefully will open soon at the Northwest African American Museum, and it's called a Carbon Copy, and it's about ancestry and your authenticity and like how black are you? Like what it like that. I have a question in one of the pieces like black enough? Like black enough? Am I black enough?
Right,
Like what is black enough? Like and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, but because, as you said earlier, we kind of have to put this facade on that
right,
we know where we stand and all of that. It's like that doesn't always give us room to explore. So if we give each other room to question those kinds of things, then we can get a lot further than we have,
right,
and we wouldn't be so divisive with each other.
right. And I think that's also very interesting too in the context of colorism and like people like you or I versus people like our fathers asking these questions, am I black enough? And like the
Yeah.
ways that those questions hit based on like the way that you present in the world and the way that you are received in the world. Like for my dad, that question, am I black enough, is very different than when I ask, am I black enough? You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that's really cool to me that I hope that that show opens soon or that the NAM figures out a way to do a virtual show or something.
Yeah, me too. At the very least, like again, I have the same questions, and I just want people to to keep asking them and not always feel like they have all the answers, especially when they haven't like dove deeper into like their friends' histories or like why they think a certain way, you know. Like I said, I have amazing friends. I have a lot of amazing supportive people around me, but it doesn't mean that I don't get microaggressions from them either. And it doesn't mean that I haven't done the same to other Black friends. It
Right.
doesn't mean that I I definitely am still on this learning journey. And, I think that's what art is all about as well. It's like to continue to learn about yourself and to explore and then express and share your perspectives so that other people can say, oh, okay, yeah, I had that too. That's interesting. Well, let me have my perspective here and let me create something that kind of shows you how I feel, you know? I think we're all built in God's image or universe image, whatever. And that means that there's 7 billion different images out there and perspectives out there. And who are we to like say, well, you're wrong. And that's not what that is, you know? Like we got to learn from each other.
We got to learn from each other. We have to respect each other's experiences. That's really beautiful. So, Kimisha, what would you like to leave the audience with this afternoon?
Um, Respect the art, number one. There's been a lot of disrespect for art lately. Um, and, ask questions. Don't be so defensive in if you see something online, like really just defending your opinion, like really start to think about why that person put that on there. And if they're ignorant, then fine, let them be ignorant. That's fine. Just let them be ignorant. Um, but put your best foot forward and know, kind of like Eric Badu said, like the wise man knows they don't know anything at all.
Yeah.
I feel like if I live by that, as I live by that, I just I become more open
Yeah.
to opportunities and love and people that and I attract people that really teach me something more. So and more appreciative, really. And I think I can then pass that on to my son and hopefully help make a better world.
Yes, that's beautiful. Art's
Thanks.
about our world. That's why we do this. So,
Amen.
thank you so much. It's been such a wonderful afternoon of interviews. First Moses' son, and now you. So, thank you for blessing us with your presence.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys stay blessed, stay safe, and wear a mask, wash your hands. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.